Government has a lot more time and a lot more players. In the 90s, the game caught up to him. Then again in 2001. Prison was a university for Albert. He didn't spend his time lifting weights or joining a yard gang. He spent his time in the law library, studying the flaws in the financial system. He talked to the forgers, the paper hangers, the old school counterfeiters who talked about engraved plates and offset lithography. It's a lost art, Talton. An old man named Miller told him one day over lukewarm cafeteria coffee. The feds got the paper locked down. The ink is magnetic. The watermarks are woven in. You can't beat 'em no more. Albert just smiled. You're trying to build a better printing press, Miller. That's your mistake. Oh yeah. What's the alternative? The alternative, Albert said, leaning in close, is to realize that the person taking the money wants it to be real just as much as you do. Chapter 2. The Spark. When Albert walked out of the prison gates in 2004, he was 41 years old. He had no house, no car, and a criminal record that made him radioactive to any legitimate employer. He took a job at a local body shop, getting grease under his fingernails and buffing the fenders of cars he couldn't afford. One afternoon, the owner of the shop, a man named Hector, came out of the office shaking his head. He was holding a $20 bill. Look at this, Al. Hector spat. Found it in the register. Fake as a $3 bill. Albert took the note. He felt the paper. It was stiff, like construction paper. The colors were muddy. The 20 in the corner didn't shift from green to copper when he tilted it. It was a pathetic attempt. Someone did this with a home scanner, Albert remarked, turning the bill over. Ruined my afternoon, Hector complained. I hate these guys. They're amateurs. Albert handed the bill back, but the image stayed burned into his retinas. I could do this better, he thought. The thought wasn't a suggestion, it was an itch. It was the same itch he felt when he saw the Bose speaker. It was a technical challenge. That evening, Albert didn't go home to his modest apartment. He went to a Staples. He walked the aisles, looking at the technology. He saw a Hewlett-Packard all-in-one printer. Scanner, copier, printer, price tag, $179. He bought it with the last of his paycheck. He spent the next 3 months in a fever dream. He turned his spare bedroom into a laboratory. He started with the paper. That was the stumbling block for every counterfeiter. Genuine U.S. currency isn't paper at all. It's a blend of 75% cotton and 25% linen. It has a specific snap. It doesn't soak up ink. The ink sits on top of the fibers. Albert tried everything. Vellum, parchment, high-end stationery. Nothing felt right. Then he had a breakthrough. He was sitting in a diner, reading a newspaper, when he felt the texture of the newsprint. It was thin. If you layered it, it gained a certain density, but it was to gray. He started experimenting with recycled newsprint. He found a supplier that sold it in large, thin sheets. He discovered that if he printed the front of a $100 bill on one sheet and the back on another, and then glued them together with a specific type of industrial adhesive, the resulting sandwich had almost the exact thickness and snap of a real bill. But the real genius was the ghost in the machine. Because he was using two sheets of paper, Albert realized he could print the security features, the watermark, and the security thread on the inside of the sheets before gluing them together. When held up to the light, the watermark of Benjamin Franklin didn't look like it was printed on the surface. It looked like it was embedded in the paper. It was a three-dimensional illusion created with two-dimensional tools. He sat back, his eyes bloodshot from hours of staring at a computer monitor, and looked at his first successful penny. "It's not a fake," he whispered to the empty room. "It's a reproduction." Chapter 3, The Pyramid of Paper. Albert knew he couldn't spend the money himself. That was how the dumb ones got caught. They'd print a 10, go to the liquor store, and get nervous. Albert needed a structure. He needed a pyramid. He reached out to David Goldberg. David was a chess player, logical, calm, and perpetually broke. One afternoon, Goldberg stopped by the house for a game. He found Albert in the kitchen, but he wasn't making dinner. "Why is there money in the oven, Al?" Goldberg asked, his jaw dropping as he saw rows of hundreds drying on a rack where cookies should be. "It sets the ink, Dave. Gives it that crispy feel. I'll pay you $60 an hour just to watch the trays." "Ewan." Goldberg didn't even hesitate. Checkmate. Next came the distribution. Albert turned to his oldest friend, Paul McCory. Paul was the charismatic one, the guy who knew everyone from the street corner to the penthouse. "I don't want to know where it comes from, Al," Paul said, looking at a stack of 10s. "I just want to know it works." "Take 100, Albert said. "Go to the mall. Buy something small. If the pen catches you, I'll pay your bail. If it doesn't, we're rich." Paul came back 2 hours later with a new pair of Nikes and $90 in real change. The girl didn't even blink. Paul laughed. She ran the pen over it. It stayed yellow, and she gave me my change like I was the Pope. The system was elegant. Albert sold the $100 bills to brokers like Paul and Troy Stroud for $15. The brokers sold them to mid-level dealers for $30. The mid-level dealers sold them to the passers, mostly gang members and street-level hustlers, for $50. Albert enforced a strict code of conduct, the one-note rule. You take one note into a store, buy something cheap, get the change, walk out, never go back to the same store twice in a month, Albert instructed his brokers. The system kept the money from being traced back to him. The street-level guys didn't even know Albert's name. They just knew the H to bills worked. By 2006, the Lawndale townhouse was no longer a home. It was a factory. Albert bought more printers, then more. He had a fleet of HPs running 24 hours a day. He moved out of the hood. He bought a townhouse in a nice neighborhood. He bought a Mercedes and an Aston Martin worth over $100,000. He invested in a home for a girlfriend in Woodland Hills. He was living the American dream, printed at 1200 dpi. Chapter 4: The Forensic Fingerprint. 3,000 miles away, in the specimen vault in Washington, D.C.,